All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to everyone. Hope you all had a good weekend. Um, I was fairly productive this weekend, got some stuff done, but none of it was in the workshop. So I'm happy to be back in the workshop this weekend and getting stuff started. So let me, before I jump in, let me just make sure that everybody is pulling scenes here. It looks like they are. Okay. It's that one, that one, that one. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, see, you can see it's working. So let me mute this because there we go. I just need to make sure that the streams are going and to be able to see any comments that come in, but you don't need to hear what I say twice. Once is certainly enough. So anyway, yeah, what's going on in the shop today? So last week, Friday, when I started doing this whole web streaming thing, I was working on a table, and we were working on this portion of the table, which is the hinges, and I was trying to get the appropriate spacing to put the hinges in for this knockdown table that I'm making. So I think we've kind of got that sorted out here on this test piece right here, which is basically 3/4 inch cherry, which is the same material that I've made the table out of. So what I'm going to do now is take the pieces that actually need the hinges and start working on them, because that is the whole reason we did the test. So let me go ahead and get these out of here first. And I did this, and I'll tell you what, if you ever need to, if you're dealing with brass screws, which is what, these are brass hinges and they come with brass screws. If you're ever dealing with brass screws, I highly advise that you drive in some stainless steel screws. These are just little small stainless steel screws. You can see what I'm doing here. But anyway, I used some little stainless steel screws to make my original, to screw in to make the original, I don't know what you call it, the screw pattern or whatever you want to call it, for holding the hinges in, because the brass screws are softer and they can get screwed up, and even broken off. And if you break one off, then you're kind of hosed. So anyway, there they are. So there's the, these are the hinges that I'm using. They're really nice brass hinges. I actually got them off of Amazon. They sell similar ones on Rockler, but I found these for almost half the price, and they're actually really well made, very well constructed. So let me go back to the main camera. So today, what I'm going to do is, you remember, if you were here last week, if you weren't here last week, I'll kind of recap anyway. What I was trying to do was put the not the screws, but the hinges in the right spot. And not only get them in the right spot, but get the spacing, because these require a little bit of spacing. Let me kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So on these hinges right here, they actually have, if you open them all the way up, you can see that there is a thicker portion right here, and then this thinner wing that is the majority of the hinge. And so also you can see that there is a little gap. There's a spacing that goes between these two hinge flaps. And so when I make the actual route out for this, I need to space these out. I need to actually separate the two pieces of wood to accommodate for that space. Otherwise, they will not fully open and be flat like this. So that's kind of what I was figuring out last week, was exactly how to do that. As far as the routing goes, I made this template on my CNC machine. I traced one of these, cut these out. So there's actually two sections in here. It's kind of, there we go. That's a little easier to see right there. So this section right here is routed out about 1/8 of an inch thick, and that is for the actual flaps of the hinge. So you can see that they would fit inside there. And then this section right here is a deeper route that I use for accommodating for this portion of the hinge, the thicker part, which is about 1/4 of an inch or so. And to do all that, I actually use a router with a bearing bit in here. So you can see this is basically something you use for doing inlays, but it works really well for hinges as well. So anyway, like I said, made this on my CNC machine. Now I can go ahead and I can apply that to this piece right here, which is one of the table legs. And I've got it taped together, and I've also got marked the 2 spots where I want the hinges to be applied, sort of centered on these spots. And what I need to do before I actually route these out is measure these two to find out exactly how far down these are, so I can put the hinges on the other set of legs in the exact same spot, because I wouldn't want them to be in different locations. That would just look weird. So let me just quickly just kind of figure out. So I've got like 3 3/8. And then this one is at about 16 inches. So, and that's for the hinges. I'm just writing this on my router table. It'll clean off. It's a pretty durable surface there, so I use that. I write notes on there all the time. All right, so now that I've got that done, I can go ahead and route these. I have another set of legs over here. Pull these out and show you. Okay, so here's another set of legs right here. So when I get the first one done, I'll go ahead and do this second one. And the big thing is, I just want to find out which side of this I want to be the outer side, which is the side you would most likely see. So looking for, grain patterns and things like that, just to make sure you get the prettiest side out, which I kind of like this side right here. So I'm going to go ahead and, while I've got these sitting here, I'm going to mark my hinge locations on this piece as well, so that I don't have to worry about it later. So what I say, 3 3/8, which is right here, and then what I say, 16. Okay, so that'll give me my location on these for my hinges. And now when I get ready to do these, I will already have them marked out, and they'll be in the same location as the first set. So let's go ahead and get busy, because this could take a little time. So what I'm going to do is double stick tape this down to my workpiece. I've got the workpiece secured together with some green, this is frog tape, which I love frog tape. So I've just used that for holding them together. And then I've got this really nice double-sided tape that I use for doing the templates. And so that I don't have to do this multiple times, I'm going to route all of the template locations like this right here and this one right here. I'm going to route those all with the same setting and route the large parts out. I will then switch to the other set of legs and do those. That way I can keep my depths. I don't have to keep changing the router depth. I can do all of those and then do the deeper ones all at the same time as well. It's just, I think it'll work out better that way. Let's see, I've got scissors here somewhere. So let's put some double-sided tape down. And I think I'd said earlier, I prefer to put my double-sided tape on my template and not on my workpiece first, because this sticky side, there's a paper backing and a sticky side. The sticky side that you first get, to me, is a little bit tackier than the other side. And so if you put that on the wood first, you can pull wood fibers out. So you have to be kind of careful with that, because you don't want to pull wood fibers. So hang on a second, let me just track. I had audio issues, so I'm really paranoid about my audio, but it seems to be working, so we're good. Okay, and before I move forward, I'm just making sure that there's nothing I need to worry about here. Nope, we're all good. Okay. All right, so I've got this on here. Basically, all I do is just rub this down really well. And then I've got a marking knife that I use for taking the backing off. So, and sometimes I'll get a couple of uses out of this tape, depending. But it's that simple. You just take the backing off, and now I've got double side stick right here. And then on this template, it's, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there are, it's maybe hard to see, but I've got some little dots on each side, which are perfectly centered on this cutout right here. And that is what I use to line up on the center line of the wood, basically where the two pieces come together. I put that right in the center. And I mean, this does not have to be exactly on my mark. I just try to get my pencil mark in the middle, put those two dots on the seam of the leg here, and then press down. And that's actually pretty good. That's not going to move. So the next step is to set my router to the proper depth. And let's see if that's a better view. Maybe a better view. A little bit off. Let me, hang on, I'm going to change my camera angle just a little bit here so you can see what I'm doing. Raise this up just a hair here. There we go. Let's zoom in just a little bit there. Whoop, there we go. All right, so what I'm doing, there's a bearing on the top of this plate, and this bearing rides inside of the template. But what I have to do is I have to account for the thickness of this bearing when I'm doing my router, when I'm figuring out the depth. Like, I can't just put this up here and say, well, that's how deep it needs to go, because I've got to account for this bearing. So what I did was, when I cut out my template, I saved the centerpiece right here. You can see right here's the centerpiece that I used. And I use this because it's the same thickness as my template. I can use this as a spacer and then figure out exactly how deep I need that router bit to go. Now, right now it's set up for routing the deeper section of the hinge. So I need to make this a little less deep. And what I'm going to do is adjust my depth stop until I get it just the right amount, that's basically a little too much still. So I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. And all I do is I adjust that depth stop so that I get a repeatable plunge every single time. And it's always going to be the same depth. So, and maybe just a hair higher here. Let's try this. Just a little bit. There we go. All right, that's really good right there. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but the router bit, it's a very small, it's an 1/8 inch router bit. It's not very large. Like I said, this is mainly used for doing inlay work, but it works well for this as well, because this is kind of like an inlay. So anyway, but you can see the spacers here, the hinges here, and that is the depth that it's actually going to route. So now that we've got that going on, we will put that here. And that bearing will, like I said, it's going to ride inside. So let me go ahead and give you a different view here. There we go. So that bearing is going to ride inside. And then I will plunge down and route out all of the wood inside there. I'm going to put some ears on. I have an amazing software program that actually does noise canceling. So when I turn this on, you won't really hear it. But trust me, you want ear protection when you're running a router, because they get loud. All right, let's go ahead. Let me plug this router in and get this running here. All right. Okay, we are plugged in. I'm going to put my ears on, and let's go ahead and do this first route. Okay, so let me hit this with the dust collector here, and excuse me, let's hit this with the dust collector and clear out some of these wood chips. If I can find my, there it is, my remote. All right, so let me give you a little close-up view so you can see what has happened is that it has taken out most of the fibers here, but there's still some that need to come loose here. Let me get some lights on here. There we go. That's a little brighter. So you can see that there's still a little bit of material left in here. And if it's little pieces like this up here, I can actually knock those out with a chisel. But the larger ones, I'm just going to hit that again with the router and just clean that up a little bit. So we'll come back to the router, put my ears back on, clean up that little spot, and then we'll be good to move the template over to the next spot. All right. Okay, that one is perfect right there. So what I can do now, and if you were watching last week, I actually had this clamped down. I've got this rubber pad under here, which is actually pretty good, and I can use it for routing. If it's a big piece of wood, it isn't going to move too much. If it's a smaller piece of wood, I usually would clamp it down just so it won't move off of the work surface. So I'm going to go ahead and peel up my template here without marring my wood. There we go. All right. And let's go ahead and move this over to the next spot. Like I said, I'm going to see if I can get 2 uses out of my double stick tape here, just to, yeah, okay. Just wanted to double check. You know, you can only do this once. So it's, you know, the old axiom, measure twice, cut once, is one of the truest things you can say when doing woodworking. It really, nothing has screwed me up more than measuring wrong. So, but there you can see there's my route right there for this one. So that's pretty good right there. All right, and let's go ahead and I will move this one down a little bit so you can see. There we go. All right, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. That template is on there nice and tight. Let me go ahead and, I've got a clamp here. I'm just going to go ahead and just lightly clamp this down just to kind of make sure, there we go, that it won't move. So it's nice and secure to the workbench. And now I can go ahead, put my ears back on, and let's do this second hinge here. here. Okay, we got that one all sorted out. And now, let me set this over the table over here. And we can go ahead and move on to the second one. Let me get this off of here and unclamp. And I need to keep these together. Well, not really, but I'm going to keep them together for the moment until I'm ready to do the second route. The second route, it's a little harder because I have to kind of really line up that one template. So let me set this out of the way here, keeping my tape in place, hopefully. Get these pieces of wood out of the way. There we go. All right. Set those over there. Okay, so let me put this other up here. I have to tape these down. So I will get my trusty frog tape, line up my marks that I made earlier, make sure that the top here, these two, this is probably the most important part of this whole thing, is this top section, because there are two pieces, there's two cross braces that come in, rest in these slots. And so these top pieces need to be perfectly aligned. So my job right now is to make sure that these are perfectly aligned, and then I can go ahead and tape them, and then we can do the routes on here. So let me get some frog tape. Like I said, big, huge fan of frog tape. Stuff is great for painting, for masking, for whatever you need tape for. Frog tape is fantastic. It doesn't lift anything off. It holds tight. And it is my preferred tape over like the blue masking tape. So I'm going to put one more on here just for giggles. All right. Okay, there we go. The other thing I'm going to do, because this can sometimes be difficult to see, let me go over here. It can sometimes be difficult to see this seam when I've got that template over there, because the wood grain is kind of very similar. So it's hard to see what is the actual edge and what is that. So sometimes I'll just take a pencil and run it right on the edge of that. And that will allow me to see this line a little bit better through the actual template. So, and I'll do the same down at this end. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to take this, yeah, I kind of lost my, my stickiness here. So I'm going to take this tape off, and we'll put new tape on here. Because about the worst thing you can have happen is your tape fail while you are routing. That is pretty much unrecoverable if it goes into your wood in a place where the template wasn't meant to be. So, good to go with a fresh set of tape on the template. And I'm trying to remember, I think I got this stuff from Uline. I'll try to find out where I got it. I've gotten some decent, I've got some other stuff, some blue stuff. It's a little thicker from Uline as well. I mean, you can get, I mean, there's wood supply places and things like that that also sell double stick tape. I just found this to be really, really good stuff. It's very thin, which I like because it really puts your template right up next to it. It's got great holding power. Need my marking knife. And after I've used it for a while, it's actually gotten a lot easier to get these. It used to be really hard. I'd try to get my fingernail and stuff. Now I just use my marking knife, catch a little corner, and they usually come right up like this. So, yeah, as far as double-sided tape go, it's pretty darn good. All right, I'm going to start at this end and get my little holes matched up there. Try to get this centered. There we go. And press this down. All right, let's do second set of hinges here. There is actually one more location that requires hinges, and that's on the tabletop itself. The tabletop would rest on top of here and actually unfolds to be a larger surface. But I think I'm going to do the legs first and try to get these knocked out before I move on to the tabletop. It's larger, and it's also, I don't have it cut down yet, so and I haven't decided if I'm going to cut down the ends. You'll see. Anyway, all right, let me get my ears. Let's go ahead and do this hinge, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay. And let's clean this out real quick, see what we've got. Okay, just a couple little places right here and here, so I think we can knock those out pretty quick, and then we'll move on to the next one. Alrighty, one more clean pocket. And like I said, sometimes there's just a little bit in here, and it just takes a little bit of a clean up with a chisel just to get any little rough pieces out of there that might not let the hinge set flat, but I think we're pretty good here. Feels very flat inside. So, gonna go ahead and move towards this next one down here. And yeah, last one on this section. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. Very nice. And clean off over here. I don't know if you noticed, I went and grabbed the clamp because it did shift a little bit while I was doing it. And I was like, you know what? A clamp is just such an easy thing to put on. There's no sense in risking it shifting or anything. I might as well put the clamp on. So well, that's what I did. Probably should have done it from the beginning. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get my little dots lined up on the center there. And then my measurement line kind of spaced. I'm eyeballing the middle of this. Like I said, it doesn't need to be exact. I'm just eyeballing it, but it's pretty close. So, all right. Get my template in there. Pressed on really well. That's not going anywhere. Get my router. If you've seen me, I've like kind of put the router down and I kind of turn it a little bit. Basically, um, to me, there's a more comfortable position to route. Um, put that up a little bit. So doing the thumb thing on this side, for me, it's just, this is like really the comfortable position. The only thing I don't like is that the cord comes out the back of that position. I wish the cord came out this side, but anyway, this is the more comfortable position for me to route with. The handles are angled forward and they're smooth on this side. So basically you just get that good grip, and then your thumb is right here, so you can activate, you can see the thumb right here to activate the plunge mechanism. This is a Bosch Colt 1 horsepower router. I bought the router kit separately from the plunge base. I think you can buy them together. I don't know. I think I bought this on eBay used, but it was in great condition. And then I also bought this plunge base on eBay as well at a different time. And I bought it used. So, but you know, tools like this last a long time. So, you know, most of the time people want to step up to a bigger router or something. So for me, this was great. And I use this for all of my inlay work, for doing bow tie inlays or anything like that, the hinges, doing little, you know, soft roundovers on stuff that I need to be more mobile on. This is a great size router to use. All right, let's get this last one cut. And you see I always kind of stop and have to check it. The router gets a little bit jammed up because of the bearing and stuff, and there's so many wood chips in there that I do like to stop and clean it out before I move on and try to remove the rest of them. This one was actually really good. Just a tiny little bit. There's a little piece right here. I'm going to clean that up. And maybe right here. And then see if I can pop this little piece out here. Yeah, this is easy to clean. There we go. Nice. All right. And just drag it around in there to make sure that I don't feel any little bumps or anything. But it feels like that is nice and flat. So now we can move on to the second piece. Let me unplug my router because I'm going to be making changes to the depth. Just good safety practice. Make sure that you unplug your router if ever you're doing anything like setup type stuff on there. It's just a good idea. I tell you, routers are one of those tools that can scare the crap out of me. I mean, there's a blade spinning at 10,000 RPMs in there, and you know, I've had it catch on wood and it can do some crazy stuff. So do yourself a favor and just unplug your machine, and you will be the much better for it. It doesn't take very long to do, and it's just the safer way to operate. Now, I'm going to make the same setup change on here using my block, my little template block right here, my hinge. And now what I need to do is let me go to this other camera here. So I need to get this to this level right here. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my stop It's about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch down, maybe a little less than that, but let me see how I got here. So I need to go further, lower it down. That may have been too far. Maybe not. That actually, I might do just a tiny bit more. Let me see here. And I always like to raise the plunger up and then reseat it down. Don't just keep pushing it down because it may be off just a hair. So I always like to just, when I'm checking a new depth, raise it up, bring it back down to that stop, and then check it. That looks pretty good right there. I mean, maybe a 32nd of an inch deeper than this. So that's going to give me enough spacing. So now what I need to do is adjust this template right here. So let me unstick it and get rid of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to now use this rectangular section over here on the template. And that is going to give me the area to route out for that deeper section of the hinge in the middle. So I'm going to get some new double-sided tape on here. And then we will do that on this hinge section here for these legs, and we'll bring the other set of legs over and do that as well. But you can see what I mean about setting the depth and then doing your routes instead of having to do this one and then do the middle, the deeper section, and then do this one. It's like, why do all that setup when you can actually just kind of set it up once and make a lot of holes? Or as I used to say to my employees, work smarter, not harder. And that's definitely a smarter thing to do. Now, I want to make sure that this tape is up high enough that it's going to be above the section I routed out so that I actually get maximum hold on my tape here. If I put it, if I put it too close to this, it's like it would make sense like, oh, you want to put it right here, right next to it. No, because there's actually no wood supporting that tape because I just routed it out. So I need to go down below to where it's going to miss that hole for the most part and give me enough wood contact on that double-sided tape to hold this firmly in place. All right. Let's, I love this tape. Did I say that already? I think I did. Say it again. I love this tape. Okay. Now this is a little different in that because of the width of the actual bearing, this edge and this edge right here, these two edges right here sit actually outside of the hole that was made from this. So I have to kind of really make sure I take my time and line this up so that I have equal spacing on each side. I'm in the center, equal spacing. Now I can always, I usually clean these up with a chisel on the corners because you can't get square corners with a round bit. It just doesn't work. But I also want to make sure that I am getting this as lined up as possible so that it's less work I have to do in the long run. All right, let me raise this, put it on here. Okay, we are ready now. And well, here, let me see, before I go, what was that? Oh, it was a little guide. So, hang on, a little guide fell off of my, is it missing a screw or is it just, no, it's just fell off. All right, let me show you real quick if you can see. I'm gonna borrow this camera real quick and you can see what I mean about it being offset. So you can see that the template actually goes beyond the routed area here and here. So I try to get this space here and here as even as I can. You know, close enough, but the more work I do up front getting it spaced evenly, the less work I have to do when it comes time to chiseling out wood. So, all right, let me plug this back in and we will be off to the races. All right, here we go. All right, that one actually did pretty good. I was off just a hair, so I will need to clean this up with a chisel, but I'll come back and do that in a minute. I did miss it just a tiny bit. Wow, just a little bit. All right, but that's okay. Like I said, that is not really the only thing I need that space for is the depth to accommodate. So if it's off just a hair, I don't really care. It just looks nicer. So obviously I want it to look nice. But anyway, I'm going to go back and do the same thing here. So let's kind of get you pointed down here. Whoa, there we go. And I'm going to line this up. And then I need that spacing on the sides to be as even as possible. Obviously, I didn't get that last one quite where I wanted it, but pretty darn close. I think that's going to be it. All right, tape's on there. Let's just clamp our piece down really quick here. Doesn't need to be hard. There we go, just enough to keep it to, hang on a second. A little harder than that. There we go. All right, moving on. Ears, and off we go. All right, clean up, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, we look good for this one. Just a second, let me just make sure that there's, there we go. I always like to check just to make sure if anybody's typing anything or saying anything. All right, so we're all good. All right, so I can take it off of here like that, and then we can move on to the next one. So let me see if I can show you what I was talking about with that spacing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's pretty, let me get really close here. Let's see. So this one actually shows it more. So right here, you can see there's just a little lip right here. And that lip, I will take that lip down with a chisel and knock that down so that's it's pretty flush right here. Right here, it's just a little bit of material that needs to be moved out. So I will take that material out, and I will fix that with my chisel, and then it will be all good. So, all right, now we move this out of the way. We'll bring that other set of legs over. We will do these sections on them. And then once I get them routed, I can go ahead and clean out with the chisels, and we will set our hinges in just to check the spacing. But you can see that this kind of allows for that hinge to rest. But see, it won't fit because it needs to be routed. So, because it's pretty precise. But once it is, that'll fit down inside there. Famous last words, but it will, trust me. That'll fit down inside there, and then we can do our spacing for actually putting the screw holes in. Let me make sure that I don't lose this. Actually, I'm going to flip this. It makes it easier now. I don't really care about the spacing on that one anymore because I've got the deep routes done, but I do want these to stay together until I get them done on this one. All right. And I'm going to replace my tape. Like I said, tape is cheap. Mistakes are expensive. So I'd rather just use more tape. I can always get more tape. and it doesn't cost, I mean, maybe $10 for a roll, something like that. I mean, like, which might seem like a lot for a roll of tape, but this tape is really great for what it does. It's worth every penny. So, all right, a little bit more tape, and then we will do this section of routing and move on. So let's see, one right here, and one more at the top. Like I said, I have one more pair of boards that are going to get hinges. I don't know if I can show you. Let me show you on here. So this is the plans that I'm working off of. There's a big cable in your way. That doesn't really help, does it? So this is the plans that I'm working off of. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of legs. You've got 2 cross members, and then there up here you'll see there is the tabletop. And so on this tabletop there'll be a hinge here, and there'll be 2 hinges up here, one here and one here. So we'll get 3 hinges total on here. These legs get 2 hinges per, so you can see how these would come together right here. So they'll get a hinge here and here, which is what we're doing right now. And then the cross members don't get hinges. They actually slot into the actual board, so we don't have to worry about them getting hinges. So let's go ahead and get these done. Very excited. Now, there are people who are making this design who are just using flat door type hinges, which is perfectly okay. I mean, you know, any hinge that's going to allow you to have these flat when they're open and fold up in half is, you know, it's kind of the point. But for me, since I'm making these out of cherry and I really wanted something a little bit classier than a door hinge, that's why I went with this. And also, if I was doing door hinges, I would mount the door hinges on the underside, and like I would do the tabletop hinges on the underside of the table, not on the top. But because these are really pretty brass hinges, I can actually have them exposed and be outside of the project to just basically add to the aesthetic of the whole table. So that's kind of why I went with these instead of just like a door style hinge. And they're very solid, and these are thick, man. They are stout. So I think these will hold up for a long time. And that's kind of my hope for these things. So, all right, got this one on, secure. We grab our grab our clamp, secure the tabletop. It's not going to move. Get our router, get our ears, and off we go. All right, that's really clean. One more to do, and then we will be finished with this portion. And yeah, as usual, I think I need to make this route on this or this template it needed to be just a hair wider. Supposedly, when I did the measurements and created the template, it was the exact same width as this, but apparently it's just a hair off. So that's all right. You know what? We're just going to get this done. Get these lined up and Get them as even as possible. Get them centered. All right. Okay, let's get this last one done here because I'm so ready to move on from this portion and kind of see how these hinges look all assembled. So put some ears on, get this last one, and we'll start kind of getting the chisel out and clean up these edges. I set the clamp here, but I didn't clamp the clamp down. Not wise. All right. Okay, I think that's good. Looks pretty good. And because I still have some areas here that I have to clean up. So grab my chisel and my trusty little mallet here. I made this on my lathe from a big old piece of walnut. So this thing serves me pretty well. And all I'm going to do is knock off these edges right here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty clean right there in the corner. Just going to clean out these little rounded edges a little bit. And see if we can get this one. Might need to sharpen my chisels a little bit. I'm really excited. I actually, so when I retired from work, my fellow employees were super awesome and got me a gift card to Woodcraft. And I've been saving it. I haven't used it because I was like waiting for the right thing. And I actually got just this weekend, I ordered a Veritas sharpening. It's a whole kit, but basically it's going to allow me to get really precision sharpening on all of my edge tools, which would be like my all of my chisels and my planer blades and stuff. So, and I also got I think it was like a 2,000 to 6,000 whetstone for like super sharpening. So I'm really excited about that. So unfortunately, it won't be until like, I think they said it ships April 1st, but that's okay. I'm still excited to get that. But that was very awesome of them to do for me. Let me make sure there's nobody commenting here or saying anything. I know I keep checking like, oh, there's going to be somebody here. I know there's nobody here. That's okay. That's all right. Let me switch back to this camera for a minute. So, but anyway, actually, you know what? Let me go back here and show you. Now that this one is carved out, you can see that the hinge will fit snugly right down in there. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to put space in here. So they're tight right now. We're going to space them out so that these will accommodate for this space, because there's a space right here. You can see it. It looks like a shadow right there. That space right there needs to be the same gap on the legs. So we're going to accommodate for that with some playing cards in just a minute. Of course, I have to get this out of here. Come out. I don't want to scratch it. I'll get it out in a minute. It doesn't need to come out. All right, let me finish with this one, because same thing, I have to clean this section out. But yes, very excited about sharpening tools. Sharpening is not something that I enjoy doing, but I'll tell you what, I do enjoy using a sharp tool. So the benefit of sharpening goes without saying. And if I can do it in an easier process, then I am all for it. So I've seen a lot of reviews. Veritas makes awesome stuff. I mean, they just make great tools anyway. And most of them I can't afford, like their hand planes. Whew, they are pricey, but man, are they nice. I do actually have, let me show you, I've got one. I've got a router plane that I got from Veritas. This thing is, I wanted a really nice router plane, and this is a really nice, you can see it's all brass construction, and I mean, it's just really well made. Just super nice cherry handles, and yeah, it's solid and flat. And so Veritas makes some beautiful stuff, and I've had my eye on their sharpening set for a long time. So I finally, I kept waiting for it to be in stock, and it never was. And I was like, you know what, it said delivers April 1st. I was like, let me go ahead and pull the plug or pull the trigger on that and go ahead and get one. So anyway, gift money well spent. Very excited about that. All right, I'm going to take the tape off of here for the moment. I can go ahead and actually do what I need to do on this one. You can see now I can get that out. But what I need to do is I need to get my spacing now. So what I've got is some playing cards. And I did some testing last week to find out just how much space I need to add in between these two wings here to make assembly so that the hinges will close properly. So I think I came up with 5 was my number. And you can see that if I do 5, hopefully you can see that that puts a gap in there, right? And what I need to do is get this lined up. Now, let me check something really quick here. Just want to see something. I'm going to putting a lot more in here than is necessary, because I'm trying to check alignment. So this is like 8 cards, right? So that's a lot. That's a lot of space in there. And that's more than I need. So then I can start, because I look at the pieces of wood to see where they're going to line up here, and start taking cards out, smushing these together. Oops, don't want that in the hinge itself. And I think that is my spot. Now, there's a little bit of gap up in the top of the hinge route and a little bit at the bottom, but that's okay, because what I found was where this hinge touches when it's open, right? So it touches, and these hinges aren't exactly together. It looks like they'd go together, but they don't. So you need to have the space from basically here to here has to be perfect in order to get this piece to lay flat while it's open. So in order to do that, you need to have these spaced just right And that looks like the right space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more tape, and I'm going to tape this down exactly where I want this to rest in here. And I'm going to tape it. Okay, and I'm going to tape the other side too, just for a moment. Actually, I'm not going to tape the other side, but I'm going to tape this back. So make sure that this, because this is where it all comes together, and you have to be really good here. So I'm going to make sure that this is exactly lined up right here. Got my playing cards in there. I've got this piece of tape right here, and that's holding this exactly where it needs to be. This one's not going to shift. Okay, and on my drill, which I've already got this out here, let me clean this off a little bit. So this is, I've seen them called like a VIX bit. It's a self-centering bit, but basically what it allows you to do is this little tip right here sets inside of your tapered hinge hole right here and perfectly centers your drill bit so that you're no longer trying to take a pencil and go, oh, looks about like right here. What? No, that's you know, this is the way to do it. So I'm gonna take one here, and that gives me a perfectly centered hole right there. I'm gonna take one of my stainless steel threads here, and I'm going to drive this in. Nice and tight. Now I'm going to take this one off, drill a hole on this one, and then we will clean out the... Well, the thing is, these things get clogged up. They have little holes. There's little holes, little slots for the wood to come out of and stuff, but they still tend to get clogged up a little bit. So anyway, let me get the hole for this one drilled. I'm going to put a screw in here, and then that's going to hold this in the right location for me to drill the other holes without worrying about it moving. There we go. All right, that one's done. This is perfectly flush up top here. And this one, get my tape on here, make sure it's not going to move. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I've got my spacing in here. Should be the same amount of cards here. Yep, same amount of cards so that my spacing is perfect. And this one drops in. And then the only thing I need to do is get this in the right location. And then I can drill the holes for this one. So let's make sure. Right there. Put my tape in so it doesn't shift on me. And as you can see, as I push on here, this kind of raises up because that center section that I did is deeper than it really needs to be, but not by much. And it really doesn't hurt because once I get the flat part here screwed down, then it doesn't really matter. There we go. Put a screw in there, do the other side, then we can do all the rest of the holes. So I know it seems like, wow, that's a lot of work. But you know what? I'd rather do it slow and take it step by step than, like I said, then screw something up and kind of basically have to start from scratch again. So, all right, good to go. There we go. So I can take all of this stuff out of here and I can put the other holes in here, which actually I'm going to do right now. Let me go ahead and get all those done. Get this unplugged. The only thing I don't like about these is they do tend to get plugged up a little bit, but man, they do a nice job. They really do. And I'll tell you, the big thing with hinges is just about accuracy. And guys who make cabinets and stuff, man, they've got jigs and stuff they use all the time for this kind of thing because it just makes such a huge difference. So let's see. I'm going to be screwing some holes in here. Let me grab some brass screws. One of these. This one right here. And I'm going to start making the holes with a stainless steel screw and then swapping it out with the brass ones. So you can see there's my brass screws. So let's do this. Let's see. Make a hole here. Let's put this one in. Then I will hand turn these in. I'm not going to use the power driver. I will just hand turn these in. And that looks really nice. So let's do the same thing over here. Okay. And once I get these in, I can take that top screw out. Take this one out. And put the brass one in the top. Now the other thing I'm going to have to do is take all these apart again, because when I get ready to stain them, I will obviously not stain them with the hinges in. So I will take these apart once they are done. Okay. All right. Oh, they're so nice. They're so flush. I love this. It's going to look really nice when this is all said and done. Of course, when you do something like that and you're stupid and you drive it the wrong direction, hopefully I didn't strip this hole out. Big dummy that I am. There we go. All right, so there is that one done. And you can see how nice that looks. And just need to do these and we're good to go. So let me make sure I know which direction my screw heads are turning here. Always a bonus. Got to get the scraps out of there. Do this one. Okay. And one more. All right. Go ahead and put all of these in. And honestly, with a good screwdriver, it really doesn't take too long. These are not very long either, which is the other reason why you really want to get those kind of those pilot holes done really well, so that these go in easier. And you don't want to be driving into fresh wood with a brass screw. Like I said, it just too much chance for them to fail. But when you've got those pilot holes done, man, they just come right out. So let's see here. All right, let's take these last two screws out of here and put the brass ones in. Boy, they don't give you any extras, that's for sure. You get exactly what you need. All right. And one more. And all right. So that is one leg done. Let me unclamp, take the rest of the tape off of here. See how we're looking. Nice. All right. So you can see those really pretty brass hinges on there. This is open really nicely. It's very flat. So you can see it's pretty flat across the top, like across this area. It's very flat. And when it's done, you're not using it, just fold up your hinges like that. So there you go. That looks good. Open it back up. Good to go. All right. So let me grab the other set here because we still have to chisel out those openings and then use the same method for these. So, oops, there we go. All right. Let me just check things on the computer real quick. Let me check my audio just to make sure it's not horrible. So there you go. It's not horrible. Questions, questions, questions. Just making sure. All right. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it also goes out across Facebook on my Facebook page, JR's Woodshop. And it goes out on Twitch, also JR's Woodshop. So it's going to those 3 locations. The only one that's kind of a little different is YouTube, which goes to my YouTube channel, Jeff Ravel. And so you can look it up that way. If you happen to hit the bell notification, if you subscribe, hit the bell notification, it'll let you know when I actually do go live again. So if you're wanting to check any of these out in the future, if you just hit the notification, it will ping you whenever I go live. I'm hopefully doing this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 o'clock until whatever. I don't have a set end time, but I do try to start 11 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So it's not the only days I'm in my shop, but those are the days that hopefully I'll be able to do some live streaming, and you can watch me in some of my projects here. And I'll just kind of talk through what I'm doing as I go. Some days I'm doing like milling on wood and stuff, which is, I enjoy milling, but it's a big bore to watch, I think. You're just watching me shove boards through a planer or on a jointer. So yeah, that's not exactly very exciting. But anyway, I've got some other stuff coming up that I'll be doing as well, and I'll try to share those projects with you. Some are small and some are larger. So anyway, back to this. Let's get back to this. So I've got my chisel, I've got my mallet. Let's make these the proper opening size. Okay. And I'm going to clean up the corners. That's not, there we go. That'll be pretty good. Just want these corners to be nice and crisp. Because like I said, the hinge is got 90-degree corners on it, not rounded corners. So, but you can't cut exactly square with a round router bit. So that looks pretty good. See this one right here. And I got to just pare this away a little bit here. It's thin enough. I should be able to pare it. There we go. Just some little chopping. Like I said, I need to probably put another sharpen on this chisel, but it's sharp enough for what I need to do here, which is just clean these corners off now. And that should get it done. And then I'll hit it with the vacuum, clean everything out. And we'll give it a little test fit. Okay, let's see what we got here. Alrighty, I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and grab another set of, see, there's one. Should have an extra one somewhere. There's two. Here we go. There's number two. Oh, hang on, I forgot to vacuum this one. There we go. All right. 1 and 2. We're good to go. And let's see, I got a haircut on Thursday. Yeah, I got one on Thursday. So it's kind of still in that I just got a haircut mode where it hasn't figured out exactly which way it wants to go. So it's kind of driving me crazy. But not as bad as before I got my haircut because it was down like past my nose. I hadn't been out to the barber in a long time. So anyway, needless to say, my haircut took a little while. Let's see, we're going 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Did I do 8 and 8? I think that's what I did there. So I'm going to check my spacing here. Yep. All right. Got my spacing. I just want to make sure I'm using the same spacing when I do these. So I can take the tape and separate these out a little bit. And let me, here, I'll come in a little bit. There we go. And I figured out the deal on my GoPro camera. There's actually a setting on there that it'll auto sleep. And I didn't want it to auto sleep, so I had to go and figure out how to turn that off so that the camera was always available when I wanted it to be. But now it's working. So I think I'm going to tape on the insides of these like that. And let me scoot this down just a hair. And then the other thing to remember, actually, let me do this, is I need to get these, like I said, this needs to be flush right here. So actually, let me run this one right on the inside here. It'll be fine. But I want these to be lined up and flushed like that. And then this one, like this. Okay. All right, I think we're good. We can start putting some holes in these and some screws. So make sure this is cleaned out. And like I said, just paranoid, just checking something. All right. I still have audio, which is awesome. I had audio issues. I switched some plugs around. Seems to be a little bit better. So hopefully that fixed all of my issues. All right, now I'm going to line these up again, space them exactly where they need to be so that when they open and close, I'm getting them in just the right location, which is right here. And do the same thing on this one. And I can drill those holes. All right, that looks perfection right there. All right, clean my bit out a little bit. And let's drill one. And let's drill one. Okay. And we're going to drive a couple of screws so that these do not move. And then we will do the bottom half. And then I would do the rest of the screw holes. Okay. Yeah, see, that's not tight, so there we go. And tight, please. There we go. Because I don't want, if you don't drive that all the way down, this hinge will shift just a little bit. And that's not going to give me that alignment I need for my other hole down here. So, and same thing down here. Oh, see, it just moved. That is not what I needed. You get this tight. Is that where it needs to be? There we go. Get this one done. Get the screw in here. And then we can do the rest of them. All right. So I've got my spacing. I think we're all good. Okay, now I can just drill holes. So, clean out my bit here a little bit. No pun intended. It just gets clogged. And let's do the rest of these. Okay. Make sure these are nice and tight. All right, let's do the rest of them here. Awesome. All right. Don't need this for the moment. I need the driver. Let's go ahead and we're just going to do the old 1, 2, 3, 4. Drive these in. And more on this side. Ooh, that's hot. That's a lot of friction. That is a lot of friction right there. Ouch. Hot, hot, hot. Hot. Ooh, that's hot. Last one. Thank goodness. Whoo, hot. All right. I'm going to get some more screws here and finish this set. Because then the only thing left to do after that is the tabletop, which is, like I said, 3 hinges in the tabletop. So there we go. Let me yeah, you know, I always have trouble. Hinges have always been kind of like a curse on me. I just, for whatever reason, you know, they always just get off by like, I don't know, like a millimeter or so. But then, like if you're making a box and you get it off just by, it's like it just doesn't open right. You know, you've just got to get them in the exact right spot, which means you need to be really precise with how you're lining things up. And if you're making pockets for them, that those pockets are exactly where they need to be. And yeah, it's so easy to just be off just a tiny bit, and then your hinges just don't look right. And I've done it on multiple occasions. So when I started to do these, that was my first concern, was how how do I get these so that they, you know, are flush? I didn't want them to be on the surface. And so that's when I thought, well, you know, I can do a template. I looked all around to see if there was already an existing template. Like I said, Rockler actually sells these things. And Rockler sells the exact same hinge. And Rockler makes some really cool templates for some of the hinges that they sell. They make a lot of hinges for boxes and stuff, and some of them actually go like down inside the wood. They have little catches that come down, and so they actually make some really cool router templates for doing box hinges and stuff. But they did not have any router templates for these. So I said, well, you know, let me look at it and see what, you know, what is it that I actually need in the way of a template. And then I had a bunch of this this material. It's just basically plexi. It's like a 1/4 inch or so, maybe just a little thinner than 1/4 inch plexi. And I said, you know, let me go ahead and see if I can't make something. So I sat down at my design software for my CNC machine, which is very basic design software. I actually traced the hinge on a piece of paper, scanned it in my computer, and then took that scan of the outline, turned that into what's called an SVG file, and then imported that into my software. And lo and behold, after a couple of trial and errors, I got the sizing right, because that's the big thing. You can't just route the outline of the hinge. It needs to be spaced outward to accommodate for the little bushing on the router. So a couple of tests later, I got the sizing just right, and yeah, it works great. I'm so happy with it. So, all right, leg number 2, all set, nice. So what will happen with these is, let's see if I've got the pieces here, because they're kind of on the other side over here. So hang on, let me move some stuff around. All right, so this is a cross member. This cross member will, see if we can do this, set up on here, right? And well, the other leg will sit here, and whoop, there you can see it sets all the way down. The other leg will set over on this side. And so when you're all said and done, there'll be 2 cross members right here and a set of legs, and then the tabletop will sit on top. I will put, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in the cross member yet or if I'm going to do it in the leg portion, but basically I'm going to put dowels in here. I'm going to put some dowels sticking up, maybe 3/8 of an inch up, and then they will be married to holes up in the base, or up in the top. So when you slide the top over, those dowel holes will slip over the dowels and keep the tabletop in place. This right here will actually support the sewing machine. There's a hole in the top itself, and in that hole you slide the machine in, and it will rest on these 2 cross members and provide a surface for the sewing machine. So, but when you look at it from the side, look at those hinges. Ooh, that looks nice. That looks awesome. Okay, I am very happy with this. Not gonna lie, that's awesome. It's a little tight right there coming out. There we go. And you know, I need to probably do some finish sanding just so that these slide in just a tad easier. My big fear is somebody goes to take it off and pops one of those ends off. So when I made these legs, I chose the wood. So my grain is running this way, which is going to give you the most stability for a leg if you're running this way. If it was running sideways, you know, they could snap in half. So stability wise, it's great. But when you get to thin areas like this, right here, and thinner areas down here, then the concern is, okay, you know, are you going to snap something off? Is it going to snap off this way or whatever? So, and I actually had that happen a little bit when I was routing some of these cross members. I actually changed the cross member design. So even on these, I mean, the sewing machine is going to sit on here. So it's the grain is running this way, which gives it a lot of lateral stability, but you've got these little teeny wings right here, right? These are only held on, you know, they're only as strong as that grain is right across there and right across here. And these actually were much pointier. They kind of came down to like right here. And I was like, you know, I actually snapped when I was doing routing with my template and snapped the top of it off. And I was like, oh, you know, that's going to fail every single time. So I went ahead and changed the design just a little bit, flatten these out just to kind of make it, you can see it against my shirt, just to make it so that it's not as pointy and as vulnerable to snapping off. So anyway, we shall see. This is my first one, so we'll see how that works. Let me show you the tabletop. So I've got that right here. So this, actually, let me get this set of legs out of here. Ooh, so excited about my legs. That's awesome. Legs done. Okay, so this is the tabletop. It's a little larger. It's not cut down to its final length yet. Oh, let me make a little room here for it. That came off the foot there. But it's pretty close to where it's going to be. I do not need a ruler. And I do not need these pieces of wood right here. So this, when I was telling you there's an opening, this is the opening, part 1 and part 2. So let me turn it up this way. And you can see that when I put these together, there's the opening for the machine. So I will need to put a hinge here, here, and here for this to work. I'm thinking probably just for stability's sake, I don't know, maybe right here. I don't know. So the big thing I want to do is, and that's why I left a little room here. So this, I've got about a ½ inch or so to cut off on this end. This end actually has about 2 inches right here to cut off. I have some planer snipe, so I left the planer snipe there. I figured, you know, I could cut that off right there. But that's not really a big deal. Once I get these married up and together, then I can worry about cutting them off. And that's the other thing too, is I want them to be together instead of cutting them as individual pieces of wood. That way the cut will basically be in the exact same spot on both pieces of wood, so that when the pieces are lined up, matched up, and I cut these boards off, the cut's going to be in the same place on both sides. So that was kind of my thought process on that. So really, this is the next piece I have to work with. Now, I have not sanded these yet. So the next thing I'm going to need to do before I actually move on to doing any of this is to sand. I'm going to have to sand both of these. And then, yeah. So I need to sand them, and then I can go ahead and do the hinges on them. So basically, let's see what I've got to do. Hinges on that one. I've got to sand this, do the hinges on this one. Then I've got to cut the edges of this one off so that it's done. I need to do the dowels. Once I have this done, I can then space it on the table, figure out where I want to have it, do the dowel rods on there, so that it will actually stay in place when you rest it on top of the legs and the cross member. And then what else? I need to do a round over on all of the edges. I usually do like a really small, I've got an 1/8 inch round over that does a really, really nice job. So I really like an 1/8 inch round over on all of my wood pieces. It just gives it a really nice feel in the hand. There's no sharp edges or anything. So I want to do that on all of the, basically not the inside of the legs, but all the outside areas of the legs. I want to do a round over on all those and on the cross members. And then finally, take all the hinges back off and stain it and put a finish on it. I haven't decided on a finish yet. I usually usually do a lacquer finish. On all of my bases and stuff, I do lacquer finishes. I might do something a little more, just because this is going to be a table. I might do something a little more durable and do a, like maybe some sort of like a satin poly finish, or a semi-gloss poly finish, so that maybe just a nice rub-on finish after I've actually stained it. Because I want something that's going to be durable and stand up to this being taken down and put back up and moved around and stuff set on it. It is cherry. It's not the hardest wood there is. You know, I could have used something like oak or whatever, but A, oak is such a pain to work with sometimes, and B, oak's getting expensive. I'm not sure what's going on in the world of oak right now, but like white oak, which is what I usually work with for making bases and stuff, is crazy expensive these days. It's approaching walnut prices, which is ridiculous. Walnut's always been expensive, but for whatever reason, the oak prices have just gone way up as of late. So cherry is one of my favorites to work with. Cherry just is a joy to work with. It cuts really well. It sands really well. Its biggest issue is staining. It can be a little blotchy, depending. But I put a dark stain on, so it doesn't really, if it blotches, it doesn't really show. I usually stain my cherry dark. I don't go with a traditional, like a light stain. The only other thing I might do with cherry is actually use like a Danish oil. There's a cherry Danish oil, which gives it a really kind of that traditional amber cherry finish. And cherry changes color over time too. So as cherry ages, this is fairly freshly milled, but as you work with cherry, it actually, and you leave it setting out, it kind of oxidizes and gets darker over time. So if you want your cherry to be darker, you can actually leave it set out for quite a while and it will darken over time naturally. And then you can put an oil finish on it. It'll be a darker finish. But like I said, I usually use, what do I use? I'll show you what I use. So I use, where is it here? If I can find it now. Where is that stuff I use? I use, well, it's like all my stains are gone. This is, oh, here it is over here. So I use something, usually it's Rust-Oleum or Varathane, basically the same company. But I use this stuff called Kona. It's a very, you can see the color on here. It's a very dark color. And I use this Kona, which is not, it doesn't come out quite as dark as it looks on the package here. Let me show you here. So this is the Kona, and it doesn't turn out this dark. I'd say if you see this, I don't know if you can see that picture right there, but it's like if you see this picture right here, it's about this dark right here. But it's a beautiful finish. It's kind of like an antique dark finish on here. And so it's not nearly as chocolatey brown as it looks on the can. When you put it over top of that more amber cherry, you really get a really beautiful finish on there. So I usually use that. I put the stain on there, and then like I said, typically what I will do is do a spray lacquer finish. I can either do rattle cans, or I have a spray gun. So if I want to, I can grab my spray gun here, spray on a finish if I want to. Depending on what I'm doing, I'm not a big fan of glossy finishes. I like my wood to kind of look and feel like wood. So usually more of a matte or satin finish is what I'm after. Semi-gloss at the most. But anyway, we'll see. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for this yet. And this is really kind of a work in progress, because as I finish this, I'll probably be making more of them for sale. This one will be for sale as well, but I'll be making more of them, and that's why I really kind of taking my time to figure out exactly what's going to work best for me. And also buying this wood, this is really wide. You can see this is like a single wide piece of cherry. This is not laminated boards here. So buying wide cherry boards is not cheap. And let me show you. I think I've got some other pieces here. There's one right here. So this is an example. This is kind of leftovers from what I started with. These boards were about 8 or 9 feet long and thicker. They were about an inch thick, and I milled them down. But yeah, this thing is, I don't know, what is this, 11 inches wide. So buying these, I have to go down. It's about an hour drive for me to drive down to the place that sells this stuff. I can't get this stuff locally. So there is a dealer near me, but their prices are more expensive. I mean, I'm closer to the city. So if you go there, you're going to pay close to the city prices. If I drive an hour into the country, I pay crunchy prices, which is much better. And they usually have better quality wood too. So anyway, yeah. So if I do more of these, like I said, I have to go out and I have to source the lumber, because finding these nice wide boards that are really clean with like no defects, or you get this like black gum type thing in cherries sometimes, little black marks in it and stuff. This is really clean wood. So I was really lucky to find this. And yeah, so, you know, all that goes into basically figuring out, is it worth it? Can I make enough money off of doing something like this to, you know, be worth the hassle of driving an hour to get the wood and milling the wood and all the other stuff? So, and the cost of the wood, can I recoup all that? And not to mention my time, which, you know, a lot of woodworkers don't really consider, like, oh, what should I charge? It's like, well, what is your time worth? Because a lot of people don't take that into consideration, you know, what their time is worth. And you have to factor that in. Unless you're someone like me who is retired, and I would be out here doing this anyway. But I still like to factor in a little something for myself. So, you know, you can't sell it just for cost, because that's not really sustainable. So, so I always try to factor in, you know, a profit margin into there too. Because, you know, if I'm doing it to sell it, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for someone else. In that case, I need a profit. So, because that allows me to go out and buy more resources to do the next one and everything else. So anyway, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sand these pieces, and it shouldn't take me too long to get a sand on these. Generally what I will do is start with something a little rougher, like maybe an 80, just really quick. I'll run an 80 across there, and that will give me a nice surface to start with. And that just basically gets the, to get a lot of the mill marks out. It's really, you can't really see them, but there are, because I use a straight blade planer, there's little teeny marks that go this way across the entirety of the wood. So in order to get rid of those, they will show up when you stain, without a doubt. I mean, they just do. So I'll start off with like an 80 grit. I'll go to a 120. I'll go to maybe a 180 or a 220. And then that's where I'll stop. But if you start with an 80, that kind of gets things rolling really quickly, and then you don't have to spend as much time with the other grits. So let me get my stuff set up here. It doesn't take me too long. I keep it down here. It was like, oh, you know, I would love to have a nice Rotex sander and stuff, but I don't know. I've had this skill thing. I can't remember. I got it at Home Depot or something. It's a 5-inch sander. Works great. It's hard to argue with something that just works. So it's hard to spend money. You know, would I like a Festool sander, big Rotex Festool sander? Absolutely. Do I want to spend $600 on it? I don't think so. Can I justify it right now? Absolutely not. So, oh, and you'll see me switching everything. I have basically 2 circuits, power circuits in my garage. 2, which is a pain in the rear. That's one of the things I hope to upgrade at some point in time. It's it's challenging at best and limiting at most. I have two 110 sockets. I have one on the wall behind where the computer and such is, and I have two up in the ceiling that operate garage door openers. There is not another single socket out here. Had I been around when the builder was actually building this place, even if I wasn't going to put a shop in here, I would have had them put in more outlets because it's just ridiculous. There's just one outlet in this garage that's at wall level, and that's the one over there. So I have been very creative. I've added lights in here. I've got stuff running in here. I've got so much stuff, and it all operates off of two circuits. Thankfully, the one on the wall over there is a different circuit than the one coming off of the ceiling up here. So up here, I have this running to a multi-strip outlet over there on the wall. You can probably see that behind me. And that's where everything is plugged in. And in most of my larger tools, when I use my router, when I use my table saw, when I use my crosscut saw, when I use my planer or my disc sander, all of those have nothing plugged in at the moment. I use one extension cord and run it from machine to machine to machine. And because my dust vac is on the same circuit, I have to turn things on and off in a certain order. Like if I have my vacuum on before I turn my saw on, it'll pop the fuse. So like I have to turn my saw on, get it up to speed, then I can turn the dust. It's crazy. So one of the things I'm hoping to do in the future is to get some more outlets run in. My big problem is my fuse box isn't here in the garage because that would be easy. It's actually downstairs in my basement on the other side of my house. So it's about, I don't know, how many feet, like, 70, 80 feet that way and down, or down and 80 feet that way. So I'm going to have probably a breakout box put in up here, and then I can run some external channeling on the walls and add some more circuits in here to run my machines. I would love to have a 220 outlet in here because I would love to add like a more powerful saw or a more powerful table saw. Yeah, there's so much more you can do. You can run larger horsepower motors, and just they're more efficient and they just work harder. But right now, this is what I do. So you know what? You do what you do. You make do with what you got. This is what I got. So that's my sad tale. Anyway, let me get rid of one of these boards, and I'm going to start on, make sure I've got the right side. I do. And like I said, I've got this little pad right here, which is kind of nice. It just minimizes vibrations and stuff. It's not really big enough for this thing, so I will do this in sections. So, and hopefully the dust collection and this my noise suppression will kick in so you won't be hammered with all this noise. So it'll just look like I'm quietly running it back and forth. At least that's the plan. All right, let's do a little sanding here, shall we? This is exciting. Talk about watching paint dry. I don't know which is more exciting, this or that, but Okay, and you probably saw, hopefully you saw that I was using I've got a stiff brush here. It's just I don't know what kind of brush it is. It's a stiff bristle brush. And I use that as I'm sanding, or usually at least when I'm finished sanding with a grit, I will take this and I will run it along the grain. And what that's doing is it's cleaning out the pores in the wood that have accumulated sawdust, so that you're getting a nice clean surface for that next grit of sanding paper. I mean, it's also hard to tell how things are going because there's a buildup of sawdust in there. So it really just cleans the wood pores out and lets you kind of get a nice tactile feel for how the wood is. And then the other thing I like to do is just kind of take the wood and really look at it, like get some light to shine off of the surface, and that will really allow you to see any imperfections or areas where you were not able to get the marks out. Now the thing is, I mean, this feels smooth, but I would never have 80 grit as a final sanding surface, especially using the oscillating sander that I use, because this is actually, it's spinning, but it's also jiggling as it goes. It kind of does a little oscillating jiggle pattern like this as it's spinning, and that will create pigtails. When you when you put your stain on, you'll see all these tiny little pigtails, just little teeny curls in your wood, and that comes from that oscillating motion. So as you go down in grits, or as you go up in grits, each succession of sanding takes away some of that. It leaves some in their place, but they're finer and finer. And the whole purpose of this is to obviously is to get to a point where you've removed enough of the scratches that you can no longer see the scratches. But that's all sandpaper is doing, is it's removing one set of scratches, it's putting in a finer set, and you just keep going to a finer and finer scratch on that surface until it feels and looks smooth. So anyway, I'm going to do 80 on this side instead of having to switch this out. And then I'll switch to the other piece, and then we'll switch to a better grit and we'll go to that one. But you'll see me stop and then I'll sand that, or I'll use my brush and clean that out. And that lets me kind of feel the surface. I don't think you can see, I don't know if you can see this on here. Let me put it up here and see if you can see any of the marks or anything in here. I don't know if you can or not, but you can see it's not smooth, and I can't get the light just right, but there are little marks in here. And so aside from the scratch marks from that, it's to get the tool marks out. And the tool marks are what I use to actually, like I said, make this. Actually, there's some right here. Let me see if you can see these right here. I don't know if you can see those in here. It's kind of hard to see. Hard to see in the camera, but there are little tool marks right here. And those tool marks do not look attractive when you put stain on. So anyway, let me just check. Checking. Okay, everybody's good. And we can hear, right? Still here? We can still hear. All right. The broadcast is just a little behind. So when I go to check, it's actually, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds behind where what I'm doing right now. So, all right, let me go ahead and I flip this over, grab my sander, do this side, and then we'll do the other board with 80, and then we'll move on from there. Another trick you can do, and a lot of woodworkers will do this as well, is just get a pencil and mark the surface with a pencil. And basically when that pencil mark is gone, see if you can see the pencil mark on here. You see the pencil mark I put on there? It's hard for you to see it, isn't it? Anyway, I marked this with pencil, and when that pencil mark is gone, I can move up and finish. I can be finished with that sanding grit and move up to the next one. So that's kind of like sand until that pencil mark is gone, move up to the next one, mark it again, move up to the next one, and just keep marking with pencil as you move up in grits. As those marks get erased by the sandpaper, you're good to move to the next grit. So that's, I do it sometimes, not all the time, but anyway. All right, let's go ahead and do some more sanding, shall we? All right, I think this side is done. And it looks good. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure on that sander. I'm letting the sander do most of the work because I don't want to put any unnatural grooves or divots in the wood from the sandpaper. I just want the sandpaper to be working the surface and removing scratches. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm just basically keeping enough firm pressure to let it do its job. Go ahead and get some pencil up on this one. And it shouldn't matter how much pencil I scrawl on there, it should all be the same. Also, while I'm doing this, you can't hear me, I can't really talk because the noise software is basically canceling out any noise coming in because of the loudness of the sander and the vacuum. So if you are curious and you have questions or you want to make comments or anything, I will be happy to address those. So you can do that over in the chat boxes. I have those on the sides. There should be chat boxes for every resource. If you're on like Facebook, you can, if you are looking at a small window, it won't show, but if you make the window large, then you'll actually should see a chat box on the side. So if you have comments or questions or anything else, yeah, go ahead and fire it up. Let me know. And I'm going to go ahead and do this, but I'll check when I'm done to make sure if you did have any questions or anything. Wow, is it that far behind? What? That ain't right. Why is it showing there? That's weird. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and, oh, you know what? I think I did. Hang on a second. My bad. Hang on. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I killed one of them here. It's like, oh no, there we go. All right, back to sanding. It's exciting, I know. It's like watching paint dry, like watching grass grow. Maybe not quite that exciting, but here we go. Actually, I just want to make sure that you're not hearing all this. Okay, it's not too bad. If it was going to be really bad, I would just kill the audio altogether, but it's not bad. So, all right, back to it. All right, that was painful for you. I mean, it doesn't hurt me, but I'm sure it was painful to watch, which is why I'm not going to make you watch me do the rest of the grits. I was 80. I'm going to go to 120 and then probably either 180 or 220, depending on what I feel like and what I find in my drawer. But anyway, I won't watch you. I won't make you watch me do that because that's torture. And yeah, I wouldn't want to watch it. Why would you? So, but that being said, I did get a preliminary sanding done on here. So this is much closer. I can save, I might go ahead, since I already did the hinges on here, I'll probably finish off camera. I will finish the sanding on this and then maybe the hinge routing. And then next Wednesday, when we come back to the shop on stream, I will do I'll show you how it sets up, and then we will do the dowel pins that will marry this top to the legs. So that will be very cool. So we will do that. And yeah, so like I said, I'm not going to make you finish watching this. So a couple more things before we bail today. I was going to show you just one of my helpful hints if you have any sort of dust collection or whatever. I use a couple of things that save me so much time and effort. So I use a shop vac with what's called a dust deputy. Let me show you my dust deputy here. Hang on a second. So if you look down here, you'll see that there's a cyclone. There's a 5-gallon bucket with basically a funnel on top of it and a hose going into it. And that's a cyclone, which basically is a dust separator. So the dust comes in through the orange hose, spins around, falls down into the bucket, while the vacuum pulls air through the top hose. And that keeps that big bucket from getting filled up, and it keeps your stuff, keeps the efficiency of the suction working much better. Now, in order to use these things, I've had to basically come up with fittings to fit on all my tools and stuff so I can marry this hose or whatever to it. So what I found, two things. One is Home Depot and Lowe's and whatever, Ace Hardware or whatever, they will have these rubber couplings that are used for plumbing and pipes and such. I think they use them a lot for PVC or whatever. I can't even remember what this one is. This is like what is this? I can read it here. This is a 1.5 to 2 inch. And so this is an inside diameter and an outside diameter. But in order to fit that to this coupling, I couldn't use this on a lot of tools unless I had this. So basically I came up with this rubber coupling here. I have them attached to different tools that I use, so that I have one up over here on my crosscut saw. I'm pointing over there, you can't see. On my crosscut saw, I have one on the top there, and it allows me just to stick the hose fitting inside of here. So this hose fitting just easily fits right inside that coupling like that. And that allows me to attach this. I have one on the back of my saw down here. You can't see it, but there's one on the saw down there. I can just take this hose, do this. I don't have all of my dust collection routed to every machine. I just basically, because it's a small shop, I just use my dust collection and move it from machine to machine. But I found that these rubber couplings are really fantastic. Also, they have hose clamps on them. Hose clamps are awesome to have around the shop. I use them for quite a few things, but the nice thing is, so you can see this just fits inside here, it's pretty tight. If that gets loose, all I have to do is tighten this coupling and it will give me just enough pressure to keep this tight inside there. If it's too tight, I can just loosen it. So hose clamps are a wonderful thing. I have this hose right here I got from Rockler. It's like their small tool hose extension kit or whatever. It's a great system. I mean, you can see this actually rotates on here and stuff. It's wonderful, but I couldn't get it to stay on the tool. So I just basically got a hose clamp and clamped it onto the tool, and now it works great. So I can take this off of here and put it on other small, like a belt sander and other such things. So yeah, if you are running around the hardware store, grab yourself a couple of hose clamps and some of these adapters, and man, I'll tell you what, it'll make your life so much easier. So much easier. All right, so before we go, one more thing. I'm going to show you one tool. I'm going to be working on this project, and maybe I'll start it next week. I got a couple of little projects to make for myself. So basically shop-made tools. So there's a company called Taylor Tools, and I think Jonathan Katz-Moses, if you don't watch his YouTube channel, he does really great woodworking stuff, a lot of like hand-cut dove joinery and stuff like that. He's an amazing craftsman. And he makes really great tutorial videos and stuff. But anyway, Jonathan Katz-Moses, and he was pointing these out on his video about, it's basically for making a marking gauge, but it's a marking gauge kit. So basically you get all of the tools you need, great brass knobs and fittings and the cutting heads and stuff. So I'm going to take something like, I got some really nice, like here is a super nice hard block of oak, and I may take this and turn this into a marking gauge. So that's awesome. So I'll be doing that in the future. And this costs like 11 bucks at their site, Taylor Tools. It's great. The other thing that I got from them is two basically marking awls. So AWL, awl. And I got a conical and a pyramidal, or a pyramidal. So basically, which is just talking about the shape of, let me go to this one. So it's basically just the shape of the marking point on here. So this is the conical one, and then there is a pyramidal one, which, as you might have guessed, is the shape of a pyramid. If I can get it out of the box here, hang on a second, or out of the bag. So there you go. So here's this one. So you can see it's kind of more of a, it's got flat edges to it and stuff, but super sharp, super pointy. For marking. Awls are great. Scratch awls, you can use them for marking spots on wood, for scratching cutting lines, for doing all kinds of stuff. So these kits came with basically, you get the little brass ring here, you just make your own handles. And so I will make a couple of handles for these two things right here, and then I will make the wooden block, which basically requires cutting out the shape and drilling the holes and doing the inserts and stuff like that. So those are just some small projects I'm going to be working on in the future, just to make a couple of shop tools for myself. But these were great, so I wanted to point them out. I think these particular kits right here are out of stock at the moment, but they come in and out of stock. Like I said, so Taylor Tools, I think if you go to TAYTOOLS.com, taytools.com, and you can go and look at their marking gauges and such, and you can find these kits in there. And it comes with a full set of instructions. It gives you templates for different designs for the marking gauges and stuff. So, I mean, it's just great. So I picked up one of these and a couple of these. So I'm going to be making some handles for these. I'll probably turn them on the lathe over there, and then I'll make a block for doing the marking gauge, because I really need a good marking gauge. I've got, if I can find it here, I can't even find it. I've got an old antique marking gauge, which is really cool, but it's not super accurate. It uses like a nail to scratch across the wood. It's not great. These actually have the disc cutters that just make nice clean lines, so that when you're marking across a board, you get a really good line that you can follow. So anyway, I'm very excited about these. I picked these up a couple of months ago, and they've just kind of been sitting there, and I thought, you know what, now is a good time to starting to get warm. I can be out in the shop a little bit more, so I can start making some new tools and doing some new things in the shop. So I'm kind of excited about that. So we'll do that sometime in the near future. But anyway, before I go, let me just make sure that I don't need to comment or do anything. If you can still leave me a comment, but I won't answer it now because obviously I'm not going to be live in just a moment. I am going to go eat lunch, and then I'll check again. But anyway, it'll pop up in my notifications. So if you do have a question or a comment or something that you want to ask me later on, just leave a comment in somewhere in there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wherever you're watching, and I will be sure to get back to you. I'll try to answer any questions you have. Yeah, about whatever. I don't care. Hit me up. And I think, time is it? Yeah, 1:30. It's lunchtime. I started a new diet today. Not happy about that. Intermittent fasting and keto, no carving. So, but I got a little too much COVID-15. I got like the COVID-30. So anyway, that's going to be my fun project for the next month. But otherwise, let's see. Yeah, so you all have a great afternoon. Have a great Monday. Have a great Tuesday. I will see you back here Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Take care.